The machinery of obedience, oppression, propaganda, and the working class in ancient Egypt. Ancient Egypt is often remembered for its monumental architecture, artistic refinement, and astonishing longevity. Yet beneath the polished stone surfaces and serene artistic conventions lay a political system built on hierarchy, coercion, and ideological control. As Toby Wilkinson argues, Egypt's stability was not the product of harmony, but of a totalizing state apparatus that shaped the worldview, labor, and daily existence of the working class. From the earliest dynasties to the twilight of pharaonic rule, the Egyptian state perfected a sophisticated blend of religious authority, economic extraction, and propaganda to maintain the compliance of the masses. Divine kingship, the ideological foundation of control. At the heart of Egyptian governance was the doctrine of divine kingship. The pharaoh was not merely a ruler. He was the living embodiment of Horus, the guarantor of cosmic order, Ma'at. This belief system was not a benign cultural myth. It was a political technology. By framing obedience as a sacred duty, the state transformed political submission into spiritual necessity. For the working class, this meant that loyalty to the king was inseparable from loyalty to the gods. Disobedience was not just treason. It was a threat to the cosmic balance that sustained life itself. This ideological fusion of religion and governance created a population conditioned to accept hierarchy as natural and eternal. Writing, art, and architecture as instruments of propaganda. The Egyptian state monopolized the tools of communication. Hieroglyphic writing was controlled by a small, elite scribal class whose works served the interests of the crown. Inscriptions recorded royal achievements, tax obligations, and religious doctrine, not the experiences of commoners. Writing became a one-way channel of authority. Art reinforced this message. Egyptian artistic conventions were rigid, formulaic, and deeply symbolic. Pharaohs were depicted as larger than other figures, eternally youthful, and in perfect control. Scenes of suffering, dissent, or social inequality were absent. Instead, art projected an image of unbroken order and prosperity, subtly teaching the working class that the system was stable, just, and unchangeable. Monumental architecture amplified this effect. The pyramids, temples, and colossal statues were not merely religious structures. They were ideological billboards. Their sheer scale communicated the power of the state and the insignificance of the individual. For the average laborer, the sight of these structures reinforced a simple truth. The king was godlike, and resistance was futile. Economic extraction and the labor corvée. The Egyptian economy was designed to extract maximum labor from the working class. Most peasants lived at subsistence level, dependent on the Nile's annual flood. In addition to agricultural work, they were obligated to participate in the corvée labor system, a form of taxation paid through physical labor. This system allowed the state to mobilize tens of thousands of workers for construction projects, military campaigns, and temple maintenance. Although these workers were not slaves in the legal sense, their labor was compulsory, and refusal could result in severe punishment. The corvée system ensured that the state had a constant supply of manpower, while keeping the working class too burdened to challenge authority. The Middle Kingdom, soft propaganda, and the illusion of benevolence. During the Middle Kingdom, the state refined its ideological tools. Royal literature portrayed the king as a shepherd of his people, a protector of the weak, and a guardian of justice. Yet this image was carefully crafted propaganda. Behind the rhetoric of benevolence lay a system that continued to rely on heavy taxation, forced labor, and military expansion. Texts such as the instruction of Amenemhat warned of the dangers of disloyalty and emphasized the king's indispensability. These works were not philosophical musings. They were political messages designed to reinforce obedience among the literate elite, who in turn administered the state's control over the masses. The New Kingdom, imperial wealth and intensified control. The New Kingdom marked the height of Egypt's power, but also the height of its propaganda. Temples such as Karnak and Luxor were expanded into vast ideological complexes. Their walls depicted the pharaoh smiting enemies, receiving life from the gods, and maintaining cosmic order. These images were not historical records. They were political narratives. Military campaigns were glorified, victories exaggerated, and defeats erased. Ramesses II's portrayal of the Battle of Kadesh is a classic example. Despite the battle being a stalemate, temple reliefs present it as a triumphant victory. Such propaganda justified high taxes, conscription, and the expansion of state power. For the working class, life remained harsh. Most peasants labored in fields owned by the crown, temples, or elite families. Skilled workers, such as those at Deir el-Medina, enjoyed better conditions but were still subject to strict oversight and could face severe punishment for dissent. Late period, decline, corruption, and intensified oppression. As Egypt weakened under foreign invasions and internal fragmentation, the burden on the working class increased. Priests accumulated wealth and power, taxes rose, and corruption became widespread. Foreign rulers, from Libyans to Persians to Greeks, adopted Egyptian royal ideology to legitimize their rule, demonstrating the enduring power of the propaganda system. For commoners, this era brought greater instability, heavier economic pressure, and fewer protections. The ideological machinery that once promised cosmic order now served primarily to maintain the privileges of elites in a declining state. The total system, how Egypt maintained compliance for 3,000 years. Across all eras, the Egyptian state relied on a consistent set of tools to maintain control. Divine kingship to justify absolute authority. Monumental architecture to awe and intimidate. Hieroglyphic inscriptions to control the narrative. Artistic conventions to normalize hierarchy. Religious festivals to emotionally bind people to the state. Taxation and corvée labor to extract wealth and manpower. Bureaucracy to monitor and regulate daily life. Military propaganda to justify expansion and taxation. This system was remarkably effective. It created a population that internalized obedience, accepted inequality, and viewed the pharaoh's authority as both natural and sacred. Conclusion: the hidden cost of civilization. The rise and endurance of ancient Egypt were not miracles of harmony, but achievements of control. The working class, farmers, laborers, artisans, bore the weight of the state's ambitions. Their lives were shaped by a system that blended religion, politics, and propaganda into a seamless whole. Egypt's monuments still stand as testaments to human ingenuity, but they also stand as reminders of the millions whose labor, obedience, and silence made them possible. Understanding this duality allows us to appreciate ancient Egypt not only for its achievements, but also for the human cost that underpinned its grandeur.